Hi everyone, welcome back to another Reddit cheating story. Before we start, please hit the subscribe button and notification bell if you love to watch more cheating stories. I'll be traumatized for the rest of my life and he just gets to go home to his wife. I'll try to keep it short, but honestly, it's such a clusterfuck. This is as short as I can condense it down to. TLDR at the bottom. Backstory: in 2017 I, 26F, met a guy off Bumble, and for the next 2 years we were in an on and off relationship. The highs were high and the lows were low, but I really thought I'd never love anyone else as much as I loved him. In retrospect, of course the red flags were there and I feel stupid for not seeing them at the time, never having his phone on, being incredibly hot and cold, sometimes staying at my house for a week straight, then radio silence for a week, never went to his apartment. He told me his mom had cancer and was self-conscious and fragile, he was taking care of her, which turned out to be BS lol, all SM was private, saying he never used it, never met his friends or family, etc. Eventually, in 2019, I had enough of the mind games and ended it for good, moved continents and cut all contact. I would jokingly tell my friends he was so hard to keep up with, he probably had a side piece. I've been single since and love it. I've truly never been happier, and life is so much more peaceful without the constant anxiety. Over 2 years went by without contact, and out of the blue he messages me asking how I am. He misses me, he misses the sex we had, he wants to come visit me, he wishes he had proposed, apologized for his hot and cold behavior, he wants to hold me and hug me. I shut all of it down, saying maybe we could be friends, but romance is out of the question. I'm absolutely over him and have no desire to revisit the headache that was dating him. For a few months, we amicably text about TV shows and books. One day I'm scrolling through Twitter and he comes up as a suggested profile from my contacts. I go to his profile only to find he is tagged in stuff by his wife. I stayed up till 6 a.m. scrolling through their photos, and to my horror realizing he has been in a relationship with this woman for close to 10 years. In the 2 years we were together, he proposed 2 weeks before our first date, and got married and went on his honeymoon to Mexico, which he told me was a solo mindfulness trip. Looking at the dates, we were sexting on the day of his wedding. I found all this out in October of last year and I've felt a pit in my stomach every day since. In the heat of my insane emotions I sent him an email telling him I knew, and attached an invoice for therapy, lol, and blocked him on every platform possible. The next day I decided to reach out to the wife to tell her, only to get blocked almost immediately. I assumed that it was his doing and reached out to her sister, sent along some pictures as evidence that I'm not a random psycho. She said thanks and she'll pass the message on, and that was it. A few days ago a friend sent me a screenshot. She had found their couple Instagram page and now they are traveling the world, drunk in love, living a hippie plant-based nomadic and blissful as can be, according to social media, and I just feel sick all the time. I don't know if I'll ever be able to date, fall in love, trust ever again. For 2 years I was strung along, given breadcrumbs and false promises, only to find out years later I was the fucking side piece. I was ready to give up everything to be with him and follow him. And here I am, broken and unable to love, while he didn't get a crumb of consequences, not even a slap on the wrist. He's traveling the world with his wife. I am by no means jealous, just angry, sailing, staying in tree houses, eating delicious food and meeting beautiful people. I feel like I'm going crazy. He got away with everything. He got his cake and ate it too. I believe he is a sociopath and no one around him seems to notice. It is absolutely maddening. Sometimes bad people get away with doing terrible things and I just have to be okay with that, and there's not much else to say, but it sucks, and it fucking sucks. How the fuck do people cope with this frustration and anger? I learned a lot of lessons and will never ever put up with any of the kind of disrespect he showed me. On one occasion I begged to pay for a 30-minute lunch just because I hadn't seen him in over a month and we lived minutes away from each other. He said no lol, fuck that ever again. I've compiled a list in the comments of all the insane stuff he put me through. I did end the relationship a few times, but he'd always reel me back in, came to my house with flowers and pizza in the rain, sent me a $300 bouquet, a surprise trip to Montreal, etc. I was young, trusting and always trying to see the best in people no matter what. That part of me died because of one asshole, and it's not fair he got to kill what was such a beautiful part of me. Now I'm bitter and pessimistic about the idea of romance or intimacy of any kind. TLDR found out years later a boyfriend I was head over heels for got engaged and married while we were together, told the wife, now they are traveling the world happy as can be, consequence free. Shit sucks. Here's a list of everything I've remembered to date that he did while we were together. Only let me come to his apartment once, said there was some girly stuff that belonged to his sister, but really belonged to his wife. Said he went home every weekend to take care of him mom who has cancer, lie lol. According to the wife sig she was in New York that weekend. Said his mom stayed with him during the week for chemo treatment so I couldn't come over. I bought him a ticket to our favorite band's concert, he bailed last minute and they have pictures at the concert together the next night on her Igda. Told me he was at a boring photography gallery night that he didn't get me a ticket for, it was her gallery night. Kinda silly but I bought us matching sweaters and he still wears it. I paid for every single date and event because he was in uni and I was working, he was saving for his wedding lol. Never met any of his friends or family. Phone always off or out of sight so that there was no distractions. Non-stop hot and cold, never wanted to commit, told me he loved me but never wanted to label things seriously. Would constantly worry I was going to have sex with male friends. Said he hadn't dated since high school or had sex with more than one other person. Always insisted on staying in instead of going out for dates. In years later follow-up text, told me he moved to BC because he loved it, it's actually because that's where his wife's work is. Always made jokes about me cheating and finding someone better / hotter. Told me it would make him really upset to see me dating someone in the future. Told me he wants to be my friend no matter what happens but said he's not sure if he could do it because it would be too painful to see me having sex with someone else. Told me he went to Mexico for a wellness solo trip, it was for his honeymoon lol. Wouldn't let me come to his graduation ceremony because he only had 2 spots available for his mom and dad, later found grad pics with his wife and family lol. Had an engagement photoshoot the day after our first date. Told me about one of his friends who has a photographer that I could meet, but every time something fell through and she had to bail, the friend was his wife lol. Told me he has private SM but literally hasn't logged in years so no point adding each other anywhere. On a number of occasions I'd bring up his weird behavior and he'd gaslight me, I'd end up having to apologize. After I left the country he be. When we reconnected 2 years later he sent me professional looking photos of himself that were taken by his friend, his wife took them lol. Constantly would bail last minute on important dates and events. Reading all of this it's so obvious he was cheating but I was so young, he was a master manipulator and gaslighter. Now if I see anyone exhibiting this kind of behavior to me I'll be leaving in a heartbeat, however I'm still enraged I had to go through this emotional torture to learn these lessons. Here are some of the best comments from our community. I don't think her sister told her. Perhaps send the evidence to the wife directly from another number? She deserves to know her husband is a heartless piece of shiz. I think they made a documentary on him. It's on Netflix called The Tinder Swindler. In all seriousness, I get why you're angry. I feel certain he will catch up to himself as will karma. When karma catches him it won't be pretty. I used to have a friend kind of like him. He used to tell me all the stuff he did. After a while I ghosted him and to this day he still reaches out for my friendship. They just burn everyone they come into contact with. And here I am broken and unable to love while he didn't get a slap on the wrist. Honestly, that's how I feel so much. My therapist would say we are not broken though by any means, there is something wrong with them. They aren't working on whatever problems. But it does feel like they are getting away with everything. I get it and that's part of my resentment etc. Unfortunately, life isn't fair and really sucks. But I'm coming to realize we are better than that. They are making/maintaining superficial relationships because it temporarily makes them feel better, inside they are lonely. Thank you for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Remember to subscribe and hit the notification bell.